The alarm bells rang through the Galactic Council station like angry metal birds. Hanky dropped his coffee cup and watched the brown liquid spread across his desk. Something was very wrong. He had been working late in his small office when the emergency alert came through. As the senior human diplomat on Station Omega-7, Hyun-Ki dealt with trade disputes and minor complaints. Nothing ever happened that required emergency alerts. His communication screen flickered to life. The face of Ambassador Vexstar appeared, his blue-scaled features twisted with confusion. Hyun-Ki, we need you in the main chamber immediately. Vexstar said, something has happened to your people. Hyun-Ki's heart jumped. What do you mean? What happened? Just come now. The main chamber was full of noise and movement. Representatives from 12 different species stood around holographic displays, all talking at once. Hyun-Ki pushed through the crowd to reach the central console. Show him the reports, Vexstar commanded. The holographic display changed. It showed Earth, humanity's home world. But something was wrong with the image. The cities were there, but they looked empty. No lights moved through the streets. No ships flew in the atmosphere. This was taken 6 hours ago, explained Zorthak, the reptilian head of security. Our routine scanning probe found this. Hyun-Ki stared at the image. Where is everyone? That's what we want to know, Vexstar replied. We've sent probes to 12 human colonies. Same thing everywhere. Empty cities, abandoned ships, no life signs, but no signs of battle either. Another display appeared showing New Sol Colony. The building stood perfect and clean. Cars sat parked in neat rows. But no people walked the streets. No children played in the parks. This is impossible, Hyun-Ki whispered. There were 40 million people on New Sol just last week. We know, said Murgala, the floating jellyfish-like creature who served as the Council's science advisor. We have checked all our data. 1 week ago, human colonies showed normal population levels. Today, nothing, not even Badas. Hyun-Ki felt sick. His hands shook as he operated the console, calling up reports from other human worlds. Mars colony, empty. Europa station, abandoned. The mining operation on Kepler 442b. Not a single human worker remained. Have you tried contacting them? He asked. Of course, Zorthak growled. All communication systems work perfectly. The networks are running. The computers answer when we call, but no humans respond. Hyun-Ki tried calling his sister on Earth. The communication went through. Her apartment system answered and showed the empty rooms. Her bed was made, her kitchen was clean. A cup of tea sat on the table, still warm. Sora, he called out to the empty room. Sora, if you can hear me, please answer. Only silence came back. Across the chamber he heard Taeho's voice. The merchant. Captain was trying to contact his crew on the trade ship Golden Dragon. Like Hyun-Ki, Taeho had been on the station when whatever happened to humanity occurred. Captain Kim, this is Taeho. Please respond, the captain said into his communicator, his voice cracked with worry. Anyone on the Golden Dragon, please answer. The ship's computer responded in its calm, artificial voice. All crew quarters are empty. Ship systems are functioning normally. No crew members are present. So Ra appeared on one of the smaller screens. She was a young human scientist who studied at the Alterian University, 3 sectors away from human space. Her face was pale and frightened. Hyun-Ki, thank the stars you're safe, she said. I've been trying to reach anyone for hours. The universities. Long-range scanners show the same thing you're seeing. Every human world is empty. Do you have any idea what happened? Hyun-Ki asked. So Ra shook her head. I was in the lab when it started. The Alterian professors noticed something strange on their deep space monitors. Energy readings from human space were changing. Then suddenly, all human communication signals just stopped. What kind of energy readings? Murgala asked, floating closer to the screen. I don't know exactly. The Alterians won't let me see the detailed data. They say it's classified now, but Professor Kultum looked worried. Really worried. I've never seen him like that before. Vexstar stepped forward. We need to send investigation teams to human. Worlds immediately. This could be some new form of attack. Or disease, added Dr. Fellinara, the insect-like medical officer. Perhaps a plague that leaves no bodies behind? Heinke wanted to disagree, but he had no better explanation. In all his years as a diplomat, he had never seen anything like this. People didn't just disappear. Entire civilizations didn't vanish. Without leaving any trace, what about the human fleet? He asked. The military ships? Zorthik checked his datapad. Gone, every ship, from the largest battlecruiser to the smallest scout vessel, all missing. But again, no signs of battle. No debris fields, no distress signals. Admiral Park was supposed to meet with me next week, Tejo said quietly. We were going to discuss new trade routes. He never mentioned anything about fleet movements. The investigation continued through the night. Teams were sent to the closest human worlds. The reports that came back were all the same. Empty cities, with the lights still on, abandoned ships with their engines still warm, personal belongings left exactly where their owners had placed them, on Earth. Investigators found breakfast tables set for meals that were never eaten, children's toys lay scattered in playrooms. Books sat open to pages that would never be finished, but no people. Not anywhere. It's like they just stepped out for a moment and never came back, reported Captain Havron from the investigation team on New Tokyo Colony. But where could 40 billion humans go? Vexstar wondered aloud. Hanki had been thinking the same thing. 40 billion people couldn't just disappear. They needed ships to leave their worlds. They needed supplies, fuel, organization. Moving that many people would take months of planning and thousands of vessels. Unless they planned this, he said quietly. The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to him. What do you mean? Vexstar asked. What if this wasn't an attack or a disaster? What if humanity chose to leave? That's impossible, Zorthek snorted. No species abandons all their worlds voluntarily. And even if they did, where would they go? We monitor all space within 100 light years. No massive human fleet has been detected anywhere. Heinke had to admit the security chief was right. But the alternative explanations made even less sense. Diseases didn't make bodies disappear. Attacks left evidence. Natural disasters left destruction behind. Sora's image flickered as her transmission weakened. I have to go. The university is restricting communications now. They're saying this is a matter of galactic security. Her transmission ended, leaving Hyanki feeling more alone than ever. He was one of perhaps a dozen humans left in known space. Everyone else he had ever known was gone. As the night continued, more data came in. Every human world told the same story, empty but undamaged, abandoned but not destroyed. It was as if humanity had simply decided to stop existing in normal space. We'll continue the investigation, Vexstar announced as the meeting finally ended. But I fear we may never know what happened to your people. Hyanki nodded, but deep in his heart, he felt that this was just the beginning of something much larger than any of them could imagine. 3 months had passed since humanity vanished. The great Galactic Council chamber buzzed with conversation and laughter. Representatives from hundreds of worlds had gathered for the quarterly session. Jinwoo sat in the back corner, in the section reserved for minor species observers. His official title was Human Cultural Attach, but now that seemed like a joke. How could he represent a culture that no longer existed? The main floor held the powerful species. The tall, elegant Vextari with their blue scales and ancient wisdom, the mechanical constructs with their perfect metal bodies, the gas cloud beings called the ethereals who floated in special containers. All of them ruled vast empires with millions of worlds. Humans had controlled exactly 47 planets, a tiny number that had earned them only observer status in the council. Order, order, called Speaker Malphane, the eldest of the Vextari. His voice echoed through the massive chamber. We will now address the matter of the missing human territories. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Jinwoo felt his face grow. Hot with anger and shame. Nari, sitting beside him, whispered, Are they really laughing about this? She was a human journalist who had been covering council meetings for the past 5 years. Her job was to report back to human colonies about galactic politics. Now she had no one to report to. Apparently they find our disappearance amusing. Jin Wu replied bitterly. Ambassador Kellenox of the Hegemony Union rose to speak. The Hegemony controlled over 3,000 worlds and considered themselves the rightful rulers of the galaxy. Honored. Speaker, Kellenox began, his metallic voice carrying clearly through the chamber. The former human territories represent valuable real estate. These 47 systems contain useful resources and strategic positions. More laughter from the audience. Someone called out, maybe the humans evolved into pure energy and don't need planets anymore. Even Speaker Malthane smiled at this joke. Indeed, the humans were always a unique species. Perhaps they simply realized they were not suited for galactic civilization. Wu Jin, who sat one row behind Jinwu, made a disgusted sound. The former human military advisor had been working as a security consultant for various council species since humanity's disappearance. His expertise and strategy was still valued even if his people were not. They have no idea what they're talking about, Wu Jin muttered. Humanity had the most efficient military structure of any species their size. But his words were lost in the laughter and chatter of the main floor. Ambassador Zergel of the Mechanical Federation stood next. His robot body gleamed under the chamber's lights. Perhaps the humans encountered a superior artificial intelligence and were absorbed into a digital existence. Their primitive minds might have found such an existence preferable. This brought even more laughter. The ethereals, who communicated through light patterns, flashed what Jinwu had learned was their version of amusement. Or maybe, called out Representative Noxara of the Hive Collective. They simply got scared and ran away. Human cowardice is well documented. Jinwu started to stand, his fists clenched, but Nari grabbed his arm. Don't, she whispered. It will only make things worse. She was right, but it was hard to sit there and listen to these insults. Jinwu remembered the human soldiers he had worked with during the Rigel border conflicts. They had fought bravely, against impossible odds. They were not cowards. Speaker Malthane raised his hand for silence. Regardless of the cause of their disappearance, we must deal with the practical matter of their territories. 47 systems cannot remain empty and unmanaged. The Hegemony Union officially claims all former human worlds in the Outer Rim, Kellenox announced. Our expansion fleets can have them occupied within 6 months. Wait, protested Ambassador Velfin of the Crystal Empire. The Crystal Empire has trading agreements with several of those worlds. We should have first claim. Both of you are mistaken, interrupted Commander Hexanos of the War Fleet Coalition. Those systems have strategic military value. They should be placed under Warfleet control. The three great powers began arguing loudly. Other species joined in, each claiming they deserved parts of human space. Jin Wu watched in disgust as they divided up his people's worlds like pieces of meat. This is disgusting, Nari whispered, her voice shaking with anger. They're not. Even pretending to care what happened to 40 billion people. An elderly Alterian scholar named Professor Quindle slowly stood up. The Alterians were known for their wisdom and scientific knowledge. When one of them spoke, others usually listened. Perhaps, the old alien said in his creaky voice, we should consider that the humans had good reasons for leaving. The chamber fell quiet for a moment. What do you mean? Speaker Malthane asked. The humans were not the most advanced species, but they were excellent observers. Their scientists often noticed things that others missed. Perhaps they detected some danger that we have not yet seen. Kellenox made a dismissive sound. The humans were primitive. Their technology was centuries behind our own. What could they possibly detect that our superior sensors could not? Besides, added Zergel, if there was a real threat, they would have warned the Council. It would have been their duty as a member species. Professor Quindle sat down slowly, looking troubled. But he said nothing more. The debate continued for hours. Species after species stood up to claim pieces of human territory. They argued about Mining rights, shipping lanes, and strategic positions. Not one of them expressed concern for what had happened to humanity itself. Finally, Speaker Malthane called for a vote. All in favor of dividing the former human territories among the major powers? Hands, claws, tentacles, and mechanical appendages rose throughout the chamber. The vote was nearly unanimous. The motion passes, Malthane announced. The hegemony Union will receive 20 worlds. The Crystal Empire will receive 15. The War Fleet Coalition will receive 12. The remaining territories will be distributed among other qualifying species. Jinwoo felt sick. In less than 6 hours, his people's entire civilization had been erased from galactic law. Everything humans had built over 3 centuries of space exploration was now property of other species. What about us? Nari asked quietly. The humans, who are still here, Wu Jin overheard her question. We're refugees now, he said bitterly. Survivors of a dead civilization. They'll probably give us a small colony somewhere and tell us to be grateful. As the session ended, the council members filed out, chatting happily about their new territories. Some were already making plans to strip mine human worlds for resources. Jin-Wu. Nari and Wu Jin sat in the empty observer section long after everyone else had left. 40 billion people, Nari said softly, gone without a trace. And they act like it's funny. They never respected us anyway, Wu Jin replied. To them, we were just another minor species. Too small to matter, too weak to worry about. Jinwoo stared at the empty chamber floor where the great powers had stood and divided up human space like a pie. They're wrong about one thing, he said finally. What's that? Nari asked. If humanity had found a real threat, we would have done something about it. But we wouldn't necessarily have warned the council first. Wu Jin looked at him sharply. What do you mean? I mean, humans don't abandon 47 worlds and 40 billion people without a very good reason. And if the reason was big enough to make us disappear completely, then maybe we had a plan. The 3 humans sat in silence, each thinking about the implications of Jinwoo's words. Outside the chamber windows, alien ships moved between the stars, carrying colonists to former human worlds. None of them noticed the strange energy readings that deep space monitors were beginning to detect at the very edge of the galaxy. 1 year had passed since humanity vanished from the galaxy. Dayan floated in the zero-gravity laboratory of Deep Space Research Station Kepler-9, studying star formation patterns in distant galaxies. Her work had nothing to do with missing civilizations or galactic politics. She preferred it that way, as one of only 15 humans left in known space. Dayan tried to avoid thinking about her lost people. The pain was too great. Instead, she focused on her research with the Alterian Science Institute. Stars were born, lived, and died according to natural laws. They were predictable, reliable, unlike the rest of the universe. Dayan, you should see this, called her research partner, Professor Quindle. The elderly Alterian floated over to her workstation, his thin gray hands moving quickly across the control panel. What is it? She asked, not looking up from her own work. The deep space monitors have been detecting strange energy signatures for the past 3 months. At first, we thought they were natural phenomena from the intergalactic void. He sighed. Quasars, probably, or maybe a neutron star collision. Why are you showing me this? Because the patterns are getting stronger and more organized. That got her attention. She looked up at the main display screen. It showed a map of their local galaxy cluster with energy readings marked as colored dots. Most of the dots were scattered randomly, as natural phenomena should be, but some of them formed lines, geometric shapes, patterns that nature didn't create. How long have you been tracking this? Dayan asked. 6 months now. But in the last week, the signals have become much stronger. Look at this. Professor Quindle brought up a new display. It showed energy readings from the past 7 days. The patterns were unmistakable now. Perfect triangles. Straight lines connecting points. Across hundreds of light years. Mathematical sequences that repeated at regular intervals. Yun felt her heart start beating faster. She had seen similar patterns before in theoretical papers about faster-than-light travel, human papers. "Professor, can you show me the exact frequency readings?" "Of course." The old Alterian input commands and numbers began scrolling across. The screen dot, Yun's hands shook as she read the data. The frequencies matched theoretical models that human scientists had been working on for decades. Experiments that had never been successfully tested because they required enormous amounts of energy. "Professor, who else has seen this data?" "Just the senior research staff. Why? Do you recognize something?" Dayun stared at the screen. The patterns reminded her of Project Exodus, a theoretical study she had read about in graduate school. Human scientists had calculated how to move large populations across intergalactic distances using exotic matter and controlled space-time manipulation. Everyone had agreed it was impossible. The energy requirements were beyond anything humanity could produce, but these readings suggested someone was doing exactly that. "I need to contact Jai Jun," Dayun said suddenly. "Who?" "Another human. He used to work for the Human Space Navy as an engineer. If anyone would understand these patterns, it's him." Ji-I Jun was living on Trader Station Omega-12, working as a technical consultant for alien merchants. When Dayun's call came through, he was fixing a broken hyperdrive motivator for a crystalline cargo hauler. "Dayun! Good to hear from you," Jai-Jun said, his face appearing on her communication screen. He looked tired and older than when she had last seen him. "What's going on?" "I need you to look at some data." "Can you access a secure channel?" "Give me a minute." Ji-Jun transferred the call to his private workshop. The background changed from the busy station corridor to a cluttered room full of tools and spare parts. "Okay, what do you have?" Dayun transmitted the energy readings. She watched Ji-Jun's face as he studied the data. His expression changed from curious to surprised to deeply worried. "Then, where did you get this?" "Deep space monitors have been detecting these signals for months. They're coming from the intergalactic void." "Do you recognize the patterns?" Ji-Jun was quiet for a long moment. "Yeah, I recognize them. These are propulsion signatures from theoretical FTL drives." "But not just any FTL drives?" "These are based on Project Exodus specifications." "That's what I thought." "But Project Exodus was just theoretical research. No one ever built anything like this." "That's what I thought too, but these readings—" Ji-Jun paused, running calculations on his workstation. "And the energy levels here are massive. Whoever is generating these signals has technology far beyond what humanity had when we disappeared." At that moment, another voice joined their conversation. The Jin, a human xenobiologist working at the Hegemony Science Academy, had been monitoring human communications frequencies as part of her ongoing search for survivors. "Sorry to interrupt," the Jin said, her image appearing on a split screen. "But I've been listening to your conversation, and I think you need to know something." "The Jin!" he exclaimed. "How did you get on this channel?" "I've been monitoring all human communication frequencies for months, hoping to find more survivors. When I heard you talking about energy signatures, I had to join in." "What do you need to tell us?" Jun asked. "I've been analyzing biological samples from abandoned human colonies. The Hegemony gave me access as part of their investigation into humanity's disappearance. And I found something strange. In the last samples taken before humans vanished, there were traces of unusual genetic modifications, not medical treatments or normal enhancement procedures. These were systematic changes to human DNA. Dayun felt a chill run down her spine. "What kind of changes?" "Modifications that would help humans survive in deep space for extended periods, resistance to radiation, enhanced ability to process artificial nutrition. Changes that would be useful for long journeys." The three humans stared at each other through their communication screens. "You're saying humanity was preparing to leave?" Jin asked. "I'm saying the evidence suggests humans were modifying themselves for a specific purpose. And now we have energy signatures that match theoretical Exodus technology." He looked back at the patterns on her screen. The geometric shapes seemed to pulse with meaning now. But why would humanity leave without telling anyone? Why disappear in secret? Maybe, the Jinn said quietly, they found something that made staying too dangerous. Something they couldn't fight with normal methods. Professor Quindle, who had been listening to the conversation, floated over to Do-Yoon's workstation. There is something else you should know, the old Altarian said. These energy signatures are not the only unusual readings we have detected. What do you mean? For the past year, our long-range sensors have been picking up faint signals from beyond the galactic rim. Signals that do not match any known technology. From where? Kai-Jun asked. From the direction of the Andromeda Galaxy. And they are getting stronger. Yoon felt the pieces of a terrible puzzle beginning to fit together. Humanity had vanished mysteriously. Now someone was using advanced human technology in the intergalactic void. And unknown signals were approaching from another galaxy. Professor, can you show us those other signals? The Altarian's fingers danced across his controls. A new display appeared showing long-range sensor data from the past 12 months. Faint but growing energy signatures were indeed approaching from the direction of Andromeda. How long until those signals reach our galaxy? The Jinn asked. Professor Quindle calculated quickly. At their current rate of approach, approximately 4 years. The three humans looked at each other with growing understanding and fear. 4 years, Do-Yoon whispered. Almost exactly 5 years after humanity disappeared. You think humanity knew about this? Jun asked. I think, the Jinn said slowly, that humanity didn't disappear. I think they evacuated. And I think they're getting ready for something. On her workstation, Do-Yoon pulled up the energy signature patterns again. But now she saw them differently. Not as random signals from the void, but as signs of massive construction projects, shipyards, staging areas, preparation for something huge. Something that would arrive in 4 years. The energy signatures were no longer subtle. 2 years after humanity's disappearance, the deep space monitors across the galaxy screamed with alerts every day. The patterns had grown from faint whispers to roaring declarations that something massive was happening in the void between galaxies. Chan-ho gripped the controls of his scout ship as he approached the coordinates where the strongest signals originated. As a pilot for the Galactic Council's Deep Space Survey Division, he had volunteered for this mission when no one else would take it. Control, this is Scout 779, he said into his communicator. I'm approaching the target coordinates now. Copy 779, came the response from Mi-young, the intelligence analyst coordinating the mission from Council Station Prime. What do you see? Chan-ho looked out his cockpit window and felt his breath catch in his throat. Control. You're not going to believe this. Stretching across space in front of him was a construction site unlike anything he had ever seen. Massive metal frameworks extended for hundreds of kilometers in every direction. Ships the size of small moons moved between the structures, carrying materials and equipment, but these weren't ships built by any species he knew. Control, I'm seeing large-scale construction activities. The structures appear to be shipyards or manufacturing facilities, but the technology, it's not like anything in Council databases. Can you get closer for detailed scans? Mi-young asked. Chan-ho pushed his small scout ship forward. As he got nearer to the construction site, he could see more details. The ships being built were enormous. Each one was larger than the biggest hegemony battlecruiser, and there were hundreds of them in various stages of completion. Control. I'm detecting massive energy signatures from the construction site. The power levels are off any scale I know. And there are completed vessels here. Big ones. How big? Chan-ho ran his sensors over the nearest completed ship. The numbers that came back made him check his instruments twice. Control, I'm reading. A vessel approximately 50 kilometers long and 12 kilometers wide. That's larger than most space stations. There was silence from the control channel for several minutes. Finally, Mi-young's voice came back, tight with worry. 779, we're getting reports from other scout teams. Similar construction sites have been detected at 17 different locations around the galaxy's rim. 17 sites? Control, who's building all this? That's what we need. To find out, can you get close enough to identify the builders? Chan-ho moved his ship closer to the nearest construction area. Through his cockpit window, he could see work crews moving around the framework. The beings were wearing full environmental suits, so he couldn't see their faces clearly. But something about the way they moved was familiar. Control, I need to enhance my visual sensors. He switched to maximum magnification and focused on one of the work crews. The image that appeared on his screen made his hands shake. The workers were human. Double quotes control. Chan-ho's voice came out as a whisper. The construction crews are human. That's impossible, Mi-young replied immediately. All humans disappeared. 2 years ago. I'm looking right at them. They're wearing advanced environmental suits, but the body proportions are definitely human. And controlled. There are thousands of them. Chan-ho continued his observations for another hour, documenting everything he could see. The scale of the construction was beyond anything he had imagined possible. The humans weren't just building ships, they were building an entire fleet that dwarfed the combined navies of all council species. When he finally returned to base, Chan-ho found the council station in chaos. Reports were coming in from scout teams across the galaxy, all describing similar massive construction sites. Mi-young met him at the docking bay, her face pale with worry. Chan-ho, we need your full report immediately. The council is going into emergency session. Mi-young, what's happening? Why are humans building a fleet in secret? She led him quickly toward the intelligence center. That's what everyone wants to know, but there's something else. We've been analyzing the other signals, the ones coming from Andromeda. What about them? They're getting stronger. Much stronger. And we think we know what they are. In the intelligence center, Dongsu was waiting for them. The former human admiral now worked as a strategic consultant for the council, one of the few humans trusted with classified information. Chan-ho, show the U.S. what you saw, Dongsu said immediately. Chan-ho transferred his sensor recordings to the main display. The room fell silent as the images appeared, the massive construction sites, the enormous ships under construction, the thousands of human workers. This is just one site? Dongsu asked. One of 17 that we've found so far, Mi-young confirmed. Maybe more. Our scouts are still searching. Dongsu studied the images with the eye of an experienced military officer. These aren't just warships. Look at the design patterns. These are designed for long-range operations. Deep space exploration, colony ships, or invasion ships, Mi-young added quietly. No, Dongsu shook his head. Invasion ships would have different characteristics. These are built for survival in hostile environments. They're designed to operate independently for extended periods. Chan-ho looked at the images again. But why build them in secret? Why not tell the council what humanity was doing? Because, said a new voice from the doorway, humanity found something that the council wasn't ready to handle. They turned to see Professor Quindell entering the room. The elderly Alterian scientist looked grave. Professor, what do you mean? Mi-young asked. We have finally decoded the signals from Andromeda. They are not natural phenomena. They are artificial constructs. Ships, to be precise. Ships from another galaxy? Chan-ho asked. Yes, and they are large, very large. Our calculations suggest individual vessels up to 100 kilometers in length. The room fell silent. How many ships? Dongsu asked quietly. Conservative estimates suggest several thousand, possibly tens of thousands. Mi-young sat down heavily in her chair. An invasion fleet from another galaxy. It appears so, Professor Quindell confirmed. And they will arrive in our galaxy in approximately 2 years? Chan-ho looked back at the images of human construction sites. Suddenly everything made sense. Humanity. Knew, he said. They detected the approaching fleet and decided to evacuate their population. But they didn't just run away. They've been preparing to fight. Dongsu nodded slowly. That's why they disappeared in secret. If they had announced what was coming, it would have caused galaxy-wide panic. Entire civilizations would have collapsed before the invasion even arrived. But why not tell the council? Mi Young asked. We could have prepared together. Because, Professor Quindell said sadly, humanity probably calculated that the council species would not be able to contribute meaningfully to the defense. Most of our civilizations are too comfortable, too settled, too dependent on existing infrastructure. While humans, Dongsu continued, could mobilize their entire population for a single purpose, they could abandon their worlds and focus everything on building a defense fleet. Chan Ho looked at the sensor readings again. The energy signatures from the construction sites were growing stronger every day. Whatever humanity was building, it was nearing completion. So they've been out there for 2 years, building the largest fleet in galactic history, getting ready to fight an invasion that the rest of us don't even know about? It appears so, Professor Quindell confirmed. Dopem turned to her communication console. I need to contact the council leadership immediately. They need to know what's coming. Will they believe it? Chan Ho asked. Dongsu shook his head grimly. Some will, others will think it's impossible. And some will blame humanity for not warning them sooner. But the invasion fleet will arrive whether they believe it or not, Professor Quindell added. In 2 years, this galaxy will face the greatest threat in its history. Chan Ho looked out the station window at the stars. Somewhere out there, in the cold darkness between galaxies, humanity was preparing for a war that would determine the fate of every living being in the galaxy, and the rest of the galaxy still didn't know the enemy was coming. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Subin had been working for 3 years as a data analyst for the Crystalline Empire's communication network. Her job was routine, monitoring data transmissions for errors and interference. She was good at finding patterns in seemingly random information, but the patterns she found in the deep space communication logs was anything but routine. Jaemin, can you come look at this? Subin called from her workstation in the Crystal Empire's central communication hub. She had been analyzing background radiation data when she noticed something strange. J-Min floated over in his hover chair. The former human strategic planner had been working as a civilian analyst since humanity's disappearance. Like Subin, he was one of the few humans still employed by the galactic civilizations. What do you have? He asked. I've been running pattern analysis on the background communication. Noise that our sensors pick up from the intergalactic void? Most of it is natural radio emissions from distant galaxies. But look at this. Subin brought up a display showing 3 years of data. Most of it looked like random static, but certain sections showed clear mathematical patterns. These aren't natural radio emissions, Jaemin said immediately. These are artificial signals. That's what I thought. But when I tried to decode them using standard council encryption methods, I got nothing. So I tried something else. What? I used old human military encryption protocols. The ones from before the disappearance. Subin input new parameters into her analysis program. The seemingly random static began resolving into clear message patterns. Subin, Jaemin whispered, this is incredible. These are definitely human communications, but who's sending them? That's what I wanted to show you. Look at the transmission origins. A star map appeared on the screen showing the galaxy and the surrounding intergalactic space. Red dots marked the origin points of the decoded transmissions. They came from the exact locations where Council scouts had found the massive construction sites. The humans building those fleets, Jaemin said, they've been communicating with each other this whole time. Yes, but there's more. I've been able to decode some of the message content. Jaemin, they're not just building ships. They're coordinating the largest evacuation and construction project in galactic history. Subin brought up decoded message. Fragments on her screen. Construction site Omega-7 reports completion of vessels. 401 through 450. Population transfer proceeding on schedule. Resource extraction from abandoned colonies complete. All materials relocated to staging areas. Defense grid alpha showing 78% completion. Estimated ready date remains 2 years from invasion arrival. Jae-min read the messages with growing amazement. They evacuated everyone, all 40 billion humans. And they've been building a defense grid for 3 years. There's more, Subin said. She brought up another set of messages. These are strategic communications. Look at this one. A longer message appeared on the screen. Council Species Intelligence Assessment complete. Recommend maintaining communication blackout until final phase. Most species lack industrial capacity for meaningful contribution to defense effort. Risk of panic-induced societal collapse remains high. Continue monitoring for technological developments that might be useful. Jae-min sat back in his hover chair. They've been watching the council this whole time, evaluating whether to make contact. And apparently deciding not to, Subin added. At least not yet. At that moment, an alarm sounded throughout the communication hub. Subin quickly checked her monitoring systems. What's happening? Jae-min asked. We're receiving a priority transmission on all council emergency frequencies. It's coming from ... everywhere. Subin's workstation lit up with incoming signals from hundreds of different sources throughout the galaxy, all transmitting the same message on the same frequency. This is Admiral Kyung-soo of the Human Defense Fleet, came a calm, authoritative voice through the speakers. We are transmitting this message to all species of the Galactic Council. Subin and Jae-min looked at each other in shock. For 3 years, humanity has been absent from galactic civilization. We apologize for our silence, but it was necessary for the survival of all galactic species, including our own. The transmission continued. We detected an approaching invasion force from the Andromeda Galaxy 5 years ago. Our analysis indicated that this force poses an extinction-level threat to all life in our galaxy. Rather than cause panic that would prevent effective preparation, we chose to evacuate our population and begin construction of appropriate defenses. Throughout the Crystal Empire's communication hub, alien workers stopped what they were doing to listen to the human broadcast. The invasion fleet consists of several thousand vessels, each larger than any ship in current galactic inventories. They will arrive at the rim of our galaxy in approximately 18 months. Based on our intelligence, they intend to harvest all organic life for purposes we do not yet understand. Subin felt a chill run down her spine. Humanity has spent the past 3 years preparing to defend this galaxy. We have constructed a defense fleet and established strategic positions throughout intergalactic space. However, we cannot guarantee success against such overwhelming numbers. The transmission paused for a moment. We are now extending an invitation to all Council species to join our defense efforts. However, we must be clear about the requirements. This is not a conventional military alliance. The threat is too great for normal methods. Any species wishing to contribute must be prepared to mobilize their entire civilization for war production. Another pause. But for those species unable or unwilling to participate in active defense, we recommend immediate evacuation of all populated worlds within 50 light-years of the galactic rim. The invasion will begin at those locations. Subin looked at the star charts on her secondary monitor. The Crystal Empire had dozens of worlds within 50 light-years of the galactic rim. We will establish communication protocols for interested parties within the next 7 days. Until then, we recommend that all Council species begin immediate preparation for either evacuation or war mobilization. The transmission began to repeat. Jae-min turned to Subin. They did it. They actually did it. 40 billion people evacuated and organized for a galactic defense project. But will the Council species believe them? Subin asked. Her question was answered within minutes. Emergency alerts began flooding the communication networks as Council governments tried to verify the human claims. Deep space sensors that had been monitoring the approaching signals from Andromeda suddenly received priority attention. HYO-Young, a human diplomat who had been working with refugee resettlement programs, appeared on Subin's communication screen. Subin. Jae-min, are you seeing this broadcast? We're in the middle of it, Subin replied. Young, did you know about this? I suspected something. There have been too many coincidences. Too many things that didn't make sense about humanity's disappearance. What happens now? Jamin asked. Now we find out which species are willing to fight and which ones are going to panic. Hale Jung replied grimly. As if to answer her question, alarms began sounding throughout the communication hub. Subin checked her monitoring systems and saw emergency broadcasts beginning from dozens of council governments. Some were calling for immediate military mobilization. Others were demanding proof of the human claims. Several smaller species were already announcing evacuation plans. It's starting, Subin said quietly. What's starting? Jamin asked. The panic that humanity was trying to avoid. The council is fracturing already, and the invasion is still 18 months away. On her main screen, Subin pulled up the decoded human communications again. New messages were appearing rapidly as the human fleet responded to their public announcement. Defense Fleet Alpha moving to intercept positions. Colony evacuation protocols activated for all RIM species requesting assistance. Industrial facilities preparing for maximum production. Alliance negotiation teams ready for deployment. Subin realized that humanity had been planning for this moment for 3 years. They were ready for the chaos their revelation would cause. They were ready to help species that wanted to fight and evacuate species that couldn't. Jamin, she said quietly, I think humanity just saved the galaxy, whether the galaxy wants to be saved or not. Outside the communication hub's windows, alien ships were already beginning to move as the reality of the approaching invasion sank in across civilized space. 18 months. That was all the time left before the invasion fleet from Andromeda reached the galactic rim. Byung-ho stared at the tactical displays in the War College on New Vega Station, running calculations that all came to the same terrifying conclusion. The galaxy was not ready. As the chief military strategist for the Galactic Defense Coalition, Byung-ho had spent the past 6 months since humanity's revelation trying to organize a coherent defense. The results were not encouraging. Give me the current status report, he said to his assistant. EUN-SAO.EU UNSEO pulled up the latest data on her workstation. 67 species have joined the coalition. 43 are contributing military forces. 24 are providing industrial support only. What about the major powers? Mixed results. The Hegemony Union committed their entire battle fleet, but they're demanding joint command authority. The Crystal Empire is providing manufacturing support but keeping their military forces in reserve to protect their core worlds. Byung-ho rubbed his temples. The politics were almost as challenging as the military preparations. The War Fleet Coalition? He asked. They're fully committed. Admiral Vexenor is leading their forces personally. But BYUNG-ho. Paused. Even with everyone who's joined us, our combined fleets total approximately 8,000 ships, against an invasion force of at least 12,000 vessels, each one larger than our biggest battleships. Yes, Byung-ho looked at the holographic display showing the galaxy and the approaching invasion force. The red dots representing enemy ships were like a cloud of death moving steadily toward everything he had ever known. What about the human fleet? He asked. That's complicated, Unesio replied. Admiral Kyung-soo has been cooperative, but they won't share detailed information about their capabilities. All we know for certain is that they have several thousand ships of unknown design. Several thousand isn't enough either, Byung-ho muttered. Sang-woo, the former human ambassador who now served as the coalition's diplomatic coordinator, entered the strategy room at that moment. He looked exhausted. Any luck with the neutral species? Byung-ho asked. Sang-woo shook his head. The Ethereal Collective refuses to commit their forces. They say they're evaluating the situation. The Mechanical Federation is split between factions. Half want to fight, half want to hide in shielded systems until it's over. And the smaller species? Most are evacuating their rim worlds as humanity suggested. The lucky ones have ships. The others? Sang-woo trailed off. Byung-ho knew what that meant. Billions of beings on worlds without spacefaring capability were trapped, waiting for an enemy they couldn't fight or escape. "There is some good news," Unesio said. "The Human Industrial Assistance Program is ahead of schedule. They've helped upgrade weapons and shield systems for over 300 coalition ships." "It's not enough," Byung-ho said flatly. "Even with upgraded systems, we're facing an enemy with overwhelming numerical superiority and unknown technological capabilities." A new alert appeared on the tactical display. Byung-ho opened the incoming message and felt his stomach drop. "What is it?" Sang-woo asked. "Long-range sensors have detected the invasion fleet's vanguard elements. They're 6 months ahead of schedule." The room fell silent. "How long do we have?" Unesio asked quietly. 12 months, maybe less." Sang-woo sat down heavily. "We're not ready. The evacuation programs aren't complete. Half the coalition fleets haven't finished their upgrades. We need to contact Admiral Kyung-soo immediately," Byung-ho decided. "If humanity has additional capabilities they haven't revealed, now is the time." Unesio established a secure communication link to the human fleet. Admiral Kyung-soo's image appeared on the main screen. The human military commander looked calm despite the circumstances. "Admiral, we've detected accelerated movement from the invasion force. They'll arrive 12 months early." "We're aware," Kyung-soo replied. "Our long-range monitoring stations detected the change 3 days ago. Admiral, I need to ask directly. Do you have capabilities beyond what you've shared with the coalition? Because our current force projections show less than a 20% chance of successful defense." Kyung-soo was quiet for a long moment. "General Byung-ho, what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. Humanity has been preparing for this invasion for 5 years, not 3. "What do you mean?" "We detected preliminary signs of the approaching force 5 years ago. The evacuation and construction project began immediately. What we revealed to the Council 6 months ago was only the first phase of our preparations." Byung-ho felt a spark of hope. "What's the second phase?" "The defense fleet you've seen represents approximately 30% of our total military capability. The remaining 70% has been dedicated to a different strategy." "What strategy?" "Preemptive strike. We spent 3 years building a deep space attack fleet designed to engage the invasion force in intergalactic space before they reached the galactic rim." Sang-woo leaned forward. "How large is this attack fleet?" "Classified. But I can tell you that it's the largest military force ever assembled by any species in this galaxy." Unesio looked at her tactical displays. "Admiral, even if your attack fleet succeeds in reducing the invasion force, some ships will still reach our galaxy. We need to know what we're really facing." "You're right," Kyung-soo agreed. "Which is why humanity is now activating the third phase of our defense plan." "There's a third phase?" Byung-ho asked. "The Fortress Network. We spent 2 years constructing automated defense platforms throughout the outer galaxy. Weapons platforms, shield generators, and strategic obstacles designed to slow and weaken any invasion force that reaches galactic space." The implications hit Byung-ho immediately. "You've been preparing a defense in depth, multiple layers of resistance, correct? The deep space attack fleet will engage the enemy at maximum range. The Fortress Network will handle survivors that reach the galaxy. The Coalition fleet will be the final defensive line protecting populated systems." "Why didn't you tell us about this earlier?" Sang-woo asked. "Because it only works if each phase operates independently. Coordination between the phases would make the entire strategy vulnerable to enemy intelligence gathering." Byung-ho studied the tactical display with new understanding. If humanity had really built the kind of layered defense Admiral Kyung-soo was describing, the galaxy might actually have a chance. "Admiral, what do you need from the Coalition?" "Continue your current preparations. Upgrade your fleets, evacuate vulnerable populations, and prepare for a massive battle in 1 year's time. But understand that by the time the invasion force reaches you, it will already have been significantly reduced. And if your attack fleet and fortress network don't stop them?" Kyung-soo's expression grew grim. "Then we all fight with everything we have and hope it's enough." After the communication ended, Byung-ho looked at the tactical display with different eyes. The approaching red dots representing the invasion fleet looked less overwhelming now. Humanity had spent 5 years preparing for this moment. They had evacuated their entire civilization, built secret fleets, and constructed hidden defenses. "Do you think they can do it?" Yuseo asked quietly. "I think," Byung-ho replied, "that humanity just gave us the first real hope we've had since this started." Outside the station windows, coalition ships moved through space, carrying out evacuation missions and defensive preparations in the distance. Barely visible energy signatures marked the locations of human ships moving toward positions that only they knew about. The galaxy was still in terrible danger. But for the first time in months, Byung-ho believed they might actually survive what was coming. The invasion had begun. Admiral Ho-sung stood on the command bridge of the HSS Defiance, watching the tactical displays that showed the approaching enemy fleet. After 5 years of preparation, the moment humanity had trained for was finally here. "Admiral, all attack groups report ready," announced Captain Yuri from her position at the communications console. As leader of the advanced scout wing, she had been tracking the invasion force for the past 3 months. "Enemy fleet composition?" Ho-sung asked. "Confirmed 14,000 vessels of various sizes. Largest ships measure approximately 120 kilometers in length. Smallest combat vessels are roughly equivalent to our heavy cruisers," Ho-sung nodded. The intelligence matched their long-range observations. But numbers and size weren't everything in space combat. "Dr. G1, status on our technological advantages?" The chief technology officer looked up from her science station. "All systems are performing within expected parameters. Our ships are significantly faster and more maneuverable than the enemy vessels. Energy weapon efficiency is approximately 40% higher than their apparent capabilities. General Minho, ground assault preparations? All Marine battalions are ready for boarding operations if required," the ground forces commander replied. "Though I still think we're crazy to consider boarding ships that size," Ho-sung smiled grimly. "Crazy tactics often work best against enemies who don't expect them." The human attack fleet stretched across space in a formation that would have been impossible 5 years ago. 3,000 ships of revolutionary design, built in secret while the galaxy thought humanity had vanished. Each vessel incorporated technology that pushed the boundaries of what galactic science considered possible. "Admiral," called Commander Yuri, "we're receiving a transmission from the invasion fleet. Put it through." The main screen flickered and showed an alien face unlike anything in the galactic databases. The being's features were sharp and angular, with metallic implants covering much of its skull. When it spoke, its voice was cold and mechanical. "Unknown vessels, you are interfering with a harvesting operation. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed." Ho-sung stepped forward. "This is Admiral Ho-sung of the Human Defense Fleet. You are invading our galaxy without authorization. Turn back now or face the consequences." The alien's expression didn't change. "Humans, we have records of your species. Primitive mammals with limited technological development. Your resistance is meaningless. You might want to update your records?" Ho-sung replied calmly. The transmission ended. "Admiral," Dr. J1 reported, "enemy vessels are beginning to accelerate toward our position. Estimated time to weapons range, 47 minutes. All ships, this is Admiral Ho-sung," he announced, over the fleet communication network. "Execute Battle Plan Omega. Show them what humanity has learned." Throughout space, the human fleet began to move. Ships that had seemed motionless suddenly burst into motion with acceleration that defied conventional physics. The formation shifted from a static defensive line into a complex, three-dimensional pattern that surrounded the approaching invasion force from multiple angles. "Impossible," whispered General Minho as he watched the tactical display. "They're moving faster than our sensors can track." "That's the point," Ho-sung replied. 5 years of technological development focused on a single goal: making ships that can outfight anything the universe can throw at us. The first human ships reached weapons range. Energy beams lanced out across space, striking the massive invasion vessels with precision that surprised even the human crews. Where the beams hit, the alien armor plating simply vanished, leaving gaping holes in ships the size of cities. "Admiral, enemy return fire incoming," Captain Yuri reported. The invasion fleet's weapons were powerful, but slow. The human ships danced between the energy blasts like fighters avoiding the attacks of giants. Every shot the aliens fired missed. Every shot the humans fired found its target. Phase 2, Hosung ordered. Close engagement patterns. Smaller human vessels, no larger than traditional destroyers, accelerated toward the massive alien ships. To observers from the galactic civilizations, it would have looked like suicide. Ships measuring 300 meters, long attacking vessels over 100 kilometers in length, but the small human ships carried weapons designed specifically for this purpose. "Penetrator torpedoes away," reported Captain Seok Jin from his fast attack craft. He watched as his weapons punched through the alien ship's hull and detonated deep inside the vessel's structure across the battlefield. Similar attacks were taking place. Human ships too small and fast for the alien weapons to target were systematically destroying invasion vessels from the inside. "Admiral, we're receiving distress signals from the invasion fleet," Commander Yuri announced. "They're trying to withdraw?" "Negative," Hosung replied immediately. "They came here to harvest our galaxy. We don't let them leave to try again later." The battle continued for 6 hours. When it ended, the invasion fleet had been completely destroyed. 14,000 ships that had crossed the void between galaxies were now debris floating in space. "Casualty report," Hosung requested. 47 ships damaged, 12 requiring major repairs. Total personnel casualties, 312 wounded, 18 killed. Hosung looked at the numbers in amazement. Against impossible odds, humanity had achieved an overwhelming victory with minimal losses. "Admiral," Dr. G1 said quietly, "we're receiving communications from the Galactic Rim. The coalition forces are requesting status updates." Hosung had almost forgotten about the other galactic species. For the past 5 years, humanity's focus had been so completely on preparing for this battle that the rest of the galaxy had seemed like a distant concern. "Open a channel to General Byung-ho at Coalition Command." The Korean general's face appeared on the screen, along with representatives from a dozen other species. They all looked shocked. "Admiral Hoso, our sensors detected massive energy signatures from your engagement area. What's your status?" "The invasion fleet has been eliminated," Hosung reported simply. Silence greeted his announcement. "Eliminated?" General Byung-ho repeated. "Admiral, our long-range sensors showed 14,000 enemy vessels. Confirmed. All 14,000 have been destroyed." "How many ships did you lose?" asked Ambassador Vextar of the Council. "None." Another long silence. "Admiral," General Byung-ho said carefully, "what exactly did humanity build out there?" Hosung looked around his bridge at the crew members who had spent 5 years preparing for this moment. Humans who had abandoned their homes, their comfortable lives, their entire civilization to build something unprecedented. "We built what was necessary," he replied. "A fleet capable of protecting this galaxy from threats that conventional military thinking couldn't handle." "The invasion is over?" asked Ambassador Sang-woo. "This invasion is over. But we learned something from our engagement with the enemy. They mentioned harvesting operations and referenced records of various species. This wasn't their first attempt at galactic conquest." "What are you saying?" General Byung-ho asked. "I'm saying this enemy has done this before to other galaxies, which means there might be more invasion fleets out there." The implications of Hosung's words sank in across the communication channel. "Admiral," Ambassador Vextar said slowly, "is humanity prepared to defend against future invasions?" Hosung looked out at his fleet. 3,000 ships crewed by humans who had proven they could face impossible odds and win. Behind them, in hidden bases throughout intergalactic space, were the construction facilities and resources needed to build even more ships. Mr. Ambassador, humanity has been preparing for this fight for 5 years. We're just getting started. As the communication ended, Hosung turned to his senior officers. Captain Yuri, begin salvage operations on the enemy vessels. I want to know everything about their technology and origins. General Minho, prepare boarding teams for detailed examination of intact enemy ships. Dr. G1, analyze all data from the engagement. I want to know what worked, what didn't, and how we can do better next time. Next time, Admiral? Captain Yuri asked. Hosung looked out at the debris field that had once been an invasion fleet. If there are more threats out there, humanity will be ready for them. That's what we do now. We protect this galaxy.